again, I think we were to some degree surprised over the course of the last 2 weeks that it had taken this long, even though the search area seemed to be not 10 states wide. You never really were, though. Why not?
Because if you look at the stats, most people who break out of prison are literally arrested within 24 hours, and most of them walking on the road away from the prison. This was a person who had a plan. This was a person who had the intestinal fortitude to undergo many challenges while on the run. His mother told us about a lot of that. But
these are, John, sorry to interrupt. These are live pictures. This is the first we are all seeing of Danilo Cavalcante. He is in custody. John, walk us through what you see here.
I see a SWAT team, which is probably the people who took him into custody. And I see a guy who has a change of clothes that we're not familiar with, which is a new sweatshirt and a dark pair of pants. There were reports that a backpack was found overnight that had things in it, clothing items and so on, that may have been his. Is that possibly what spurred them into a certain area? But he has been doing these kind of home invasions and burglaries and garage, siftings, trying to find different outfits to keep changing his appearance. And, our last reporting was he was shirtless. So he clearly has had these stashes while he's hiding out. But you can tell even as he's walking, he's a guy who's worn down from this flight.
We've talked about the scale of the federal and state resources. What we're looking at right now, you mentioned it's a SWAT team. Do we have any sense of who there's different uniforms along with the SWAT officials that are there, who we're looking at, why there are so many of them?
Well, I think, number one, every SWAT team in Pennsylvania, give or take, had contributed people to that, as well as the FBI, the ATF, Customs and Border Patrol, a lot of specialized units, the FBI's operational technology.
Why are they, they're cutting off his shirt right now. Why would they be cutting off his shirt?
Could be for purposes of identification, meaning...
take the tattoo on his back.
He's known to have, specific tattoos, and they want to be able to confirm that they have not just a guy wandering in the woods, but the guy.
I'm going to bring Danny Freeman in as well on the ground. And Danny, as I bring you in, we're just learning that this reverse 911 call has gone out to people on the ground, telling them the search for Danilo Cavalcante is over. The suspect is now in custody. Remember, this was a community terrorized by this, told to stay inside. And authorities want them to know that he is caught.
That's absolutely right. And remember, it's not just this immediate community that we are in right now in South Coventry Township. It's really the entirety of Chester County. I mean, and quite frankly, many of the neighboring counties as well, who have been on edge for 14 days since this inmate escaped. And just looking at some of these live photos, Poppy, I mean, this is the moment that so many in law enforcement have really been waiting for as well. They've been waiting for the moment that they could bring him into custody. I'm sure they are glad that we have aerial footage of this whole process taking place. You can see Pennsylvania State Police down there, and you can see some of those enormous assets as well that have been brought in over the course of this investigation, especially in the past 48 hours when there was this truly intense show of force after that revelation came out that Cavalcante did indeed get his hands on a rifle. But no doubt, like I said before, we've been out here at this particular intersection on the corner of the northeasternmost part of this perimeter, just as I keep saying as well, a few miles, it seems, from where helicopters are watching Cavalcante from above. And folks have been applauding. There have been honks towards these troopers. There is definitely a sense of relief and, frankly, thanks that Pennsylvania State Police and this entire state, federal, and local law enforcement apparatus has been able to apprehend Cavalcante here.
John, I just want to go back to what we've been watching on screen here, because I think it gets to what you suspected might be happening. Not only was his sweatshirt and his T-shirt taken off, cut off, it also seemed that he didn't have his pants on either, wasn't completely naked, and then they were taking photos. And you think that's an identification of markings or tattoos or just a confirmation?
Exactly. And I mean, there's another step to that. They have his biometrics, so they have his DNA because he's been a prisoner. They have, his prints. But these are the immediate identifications they can make to make sure that they have a person who fits the unique characteristics, if not the biometric characteristics of the person they're looking for.
If you're just joining us, I want to reset the breaking news. You are looking at live pictures of the capture of escaped fugitive Danilo Cavalcante, convicted murderer who's been on the lam for more than 2 weeks. And these are aerial images of just an enormous SWAT team taking him down, cuffed, putting him into this van, cutting off his shirt as they identify him. With us now, former Supervisory Special Agent Scott Duffy joins us. Context of this, you did something very similar in 1999 with an escaped killer on the run. What are your thoughts as we wait for this press conference?
Oh, good morning to you both, and thanks for having me on. I'm telling you, I'm feeling the same chills just watching the same thing that everybody's watching, and brings back all of the flood of emotions from 1999. The fact that he is caught, the fact that from what I gather, nobody injured, it's fantastic, and to have taken him into custody is just. There's a lot of emotions, and as I saw all the different vehicles kind of rushing out of the scene, trying to head to wherever they're going, they're all feeling the same thing. That one moment of elation, just bringing calmness to a ravaged community, and they're probably all heading to put eyes on him to say, "This is who we've been looking for the last 2 weeks." So it's a tremendous celebration. Especially with all that is being said, the professionals got him. They took the fight to him, and they took him into custody without incident.
Can you describe kind of the combination of anxiety and intensity that would be felt just before this moment? Like how these guys were feeling, the law enforcement that you're looking at on the ground over the course of the last several days, especially when they found out he was armed?
Yeah, that just raised the tensions to a whole new level. Law enforcement is on high alert, right? And so everybody's looking up, they're looking 360, but then to have confirmation that he took a gun and that he is armed, just send that acute awareness to a whole new level. So you have the neighbors that are locking doors and doing everything shutter in place. But law enforcement is out there and they are searching day and night, especially with the storms last night. But to be able to zero in on him, from what I gather, get the right people in place, the tactical units, it's game over. And especially to be able to walk him to a police car. There's just no words to describe. Law enforcement is that high is still very high. They're all on cloud 9, and will be for some time.
John Miller, I want you to weigh in here. This is your expertise, and we're seeing it live play out here. We're waiting for the press conference at 9:30. Your thoughts?
This is reflective of other manhunts we've seen, and other manhunts we've seen in Pennsylvania. It's really interesting because these are fairly rare occurrences. But in just the past recent years, you had the case of Eric Frein, a domestic terrorist who opened fire on Pennsylvania State Police. That was a 48-day manhunt through the woods using the same tactics, many of the same people. It ended in a terrible shootout where the face of this investigation, the voice of this investigation, George Bivens, the lieutenant colonel from the state police, said this was the most intense gun battle he had ever seen in his career. Much more recently, in July, we had the case of Michael Burnham, a survivalist, a former military man who went into the woods. That lasted about 10 days. And you see the marshals, the U.S. Marshals. They are in the manhunting business. The state police, they've been through this, as our agent was just describing, multiple times in very similar dynamics. In some way, this is a familiar ending for them, much better than in the Frein case, and similar to the Burnham case. But I think these things have brought them closer together as a team.
Can I ask you what they're doing right now? So I had expected them to put him in the van, is that even the right term, close the door and go. Are they interrogating him right now? Are they asking him questions? What are they doing in there right now with him?
You know, I don't think that they can get too far into the interrogation except for the public safety part of it, which is, you know, anything that would constitute an immediate threat to somebody else, because as we've talked about before, he's represented by a lawyer. But I think they're probably settling more on where are we going, where are we bringing him, are they ready,
Well, that's a
and
good point.
things
Are
like
they
that.
ready to take him in wherever we're taking him?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Danny, and for those of you who are watching on the left, it's just moments ago when we saw Danielle Cavalcante, who was led in handcuffs in what looked to be different clothing than we had seen earlier in the week. We knew he had changed clothes in handcuffs to the picture where on your right, where he has been now loaded in handcuffs into that law enforcement vehicle. Before being loaded in, his sweatshirt and pants had been removed for what we believe, at least according to John Miller, looked to be identification purposes. Still waiting to see where he will head next.